We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Good morning, friends, gathered in the sanctuary on Zoom and later on our YouTube channel. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin, to the mountains of western North Carolina and northeast Georgia, and the ancestral land of the Cherokee. We are a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections. All are welcome as we worship that which gives us meaning and value. No matter what name you give this hour or this gathering of people, we worship as one body in love, illuminated by the light of the chalice. My name is Mary Teslow, and I'm pleased to be your service leader today. Our Sunday service team includes our sanctuary tech support, Warren Riley, Bruce Brandsma, and Ian Carson, our Zoom stage manager and music coordinator, Jude Lowry, our Zoom tech support, Jill Elnern, and all of us for hospitality for our potluck lunch later after service. Are there any church-related announcements? We'll start with Zoom. Bonnie? Mm-hmm.
Wow, I showed up just in time. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I have to say first, I missed you all so much last week. I had to do something else. I had no choice. I really missed being with our community.
Bonnie, we're lucky. We have Mark here with us.
Hi, Mark.
We're lucky, yay.
Give him a hug.
But we miss you too, but we have him with us. Are there any other announcements? Are there any announcements here in the sanctuary? Please don't.
March 15th is going to be our next morning breakfast gathering, so put it on your calendars, 9:30. If you want to come, let myself or Brenda know, and if you can bring something, let us know what that is too, to make sure that we're not all eating bread and muffins. So, thank you.
The 15th is a Wednesday this time, so a little different. Maybe different people can find that a handy time. Anything else? Wonderful, thank you all. Please be sure to check the UU View to stay up to date. And we will soon have an updated website, so that'll have more information as well. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values diversity and the richness it brings to our community. Our celebration of diversity is reflected in the variety of our Sunday services. We hope today's service enriches your journey. Today we welcome Danna Fewell with a historical look at the story of Eve as we begin Women's History Month. I have a very special helper this morning for the chalice. Judith Bellflower is my very, very special assistant for our chalice lighting and chalice extinguishing. I told her earlier we're going to talk about a garden, and she looks like a walking garden. I love it. So if you'd light the chalice. Our chalice lighting is by Reverend Selena Fox. We light this flame in love for mothers and for mothers, past, present, and future. We kindle this flame in celebration of community and its generations. We kindle this flame with respect and support for the greater circle of life of which we are all a part. Thank you so much. Our opening words are from Danna Fewell.
Good morning. The opening words this morning begin with a quote from Elizabeth Cady Stanton, followed by a couple of comments to frame today's presentation. As you probably know, in the late 1800s, Cady Stanton organized a group of women scholars to produce the Woman's Bible, a commentary that attempted to read and revise the Bible based on women's experiences and perspectives. The quote comes from her introduction to the volume, and just as an aside, her audience in 1895 would have included a substantial number of Unitarians and Universalists. So be listening for the message. There are some who write us that our work is a useless expenditure of force over a book that has lost its hold on the human mind. Most intelligent women, they say, regard it simply as the history of a rude people in a barbarous age, and have no more reverence for the scriptures than any other work. But so long as tens of thousands of Bibles are printed every year and circulated over the whole habitable globe, and the masses in all English-speaking nations revere it as the Word of God, it is vain to belittle its influence. I wager many of us here today have an ambivalent relationship to the Bible. If we've read any of the Bible at all, we have no doubt witnessed the barbarity to which Stanton alludes. Such a curious book, a source of redemption and liberation for many, and a weapon of subjugation, even annihilation, for others. From its inception, it has played a dominant role in the subordination of women. So you might wonder why we're looking at the Bible during a month we celebrate women's history. Here's the deal. Stanton had it right. As a major driver of religion, politics, and even the education of our children, we cannot afford to belittle its influence. But that doesn't mean we have to read it as it has always been read. There's no story that has had a more profound effect on the treatment of women and on interfaith dialogue than the story of the Garden of Eden. Though a text rife with many possible interpretations, the Christian version has taken the firmest hold on cultural imagination. Typically described as the fall, it recounts original sin to be blamed on womankind, and that can only be remedied by belief in a particular male savior. This version excludes all other visions of God, the world, the human condition, and it has left the lives of billions of women diminished in its wake. So today, In the spirit of Elizabeth Cady Stanton and her cadre of women scholars, let's revisit, re-envision, maybe revise this critical story, because the Bible is much too powerful a book to be left in the hands of a few.
Our opening hymn is number 347, Gather the Spirit. Our offering words: the money that you offer, the time and care you give us again and again, and your commitment to be a part of this faith community are all such precious gifts. Thank you for your ongoing generosity. Financial donations are welcome at the sanctuary entry by mail or by PayPal. Our offertory hymn is number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of love,
The dedication of our gifts. Gifts given in love and hope continue a cycle of love and hope. We're delighted this morning to welcome Danna Fewell. She's the John Fletcher Hurst Professor of Hebrew Bible at Drew University. Her area of expertise is biblical narrative, and her work often focuses on how literary constructions of gender, age, ethnicity, and social class complicate our common theological understandings of biblical literature. She's the author of numerous books and articles on these and other biblical subjects, and is the editor of the Oxford Handbook of Biblical Narrative. She and her husband David moved to the area in 2016 and are currently trying to carve out their own Garden of Eden just south of Franklin. Please join me in welcoming Danna Fewell.
What I'll be presenting today is what the ancient rabbis would call a midrash. Midrash comes from the Hebrew word darash, which means to search out, to make an inquiry into meaning. A midrash is a retelling of a story that explores and expands various interpretations. And to help illustrate my retelling, I've turned to, do we have the painting? To the provocative painting Adam and Eve by Haitian artist Hirsa Bourjan, which serves two purposes today. Not only does her painting illustrate some of the more profound details of the story, it's going to also give you something more interesting to look at than a talking head.
Before I begin the midrash, I'm going to lean into being a nerdy Bible scholar and share 4 footnotes about Hebrew concepts that will feature in the retelling. First, the divine name, usually translated Lord God, is a combination of a proper name and a common noun, Yahweh Elohim. If you remember the story of Moses in the burning bush, you might recall that Moses asks God what his name is, and God responds, I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, which may mean something terribly profound, or it may be his way of saying, mind your own business. In any case, the divine name in the Hebrew Bible is rendered Yahweh, meaning he is who he is. He will be who he will be, or he will become who he will become. The second noun, translated God, is Elohim, a plural noun that can mean God or gods, depending upon the context. Here, it takes a singular verb, so it basically portrays a plurality in a singularity. So we have 2 curious labels for God, both loaded. And what is even more unusual is that the joining of these 2 labels is a unique occurrence in the Hebrew Bible. Okay, footnote number 2. The word Adam, typically rendered as Adam's name, is actually a common noun through most of the story. It takes a definite article, the Adam, and is more appropriately rendered as the human being. Moreover, there's a wordplay on the word for ground. The Adam comes from the Adamah, the earth, the ground. And you see this connection in the painting by Barjan. Adam and Eve are the color of the tree trunk and the ground. You can't see the ground very well, but through the use of creative coloring, the artist is showing how the first human beings are connected to the earth and the rest of creation. Footnote number 3, the word usually translated rib. Every other occurrence of this particular word in the Hebrew Bible is rendered side in English translations. Only here do English translators use the word rib, which has led to all sorts of misogynist interpretations regarding the worth and function of the woman. Early rabbinic interpreters, however, recognized that side was the meaning of the word and argued that the first human being was androgynous, male on one side and female on the other. And God simply divided the creature in half to make man and woman. And here again, if you look at the painting, you see the connection between Adam and Eve rendered here, joined at the shoulder and the arm. The two are basically one flesh, to put it in biblical terms. And finally, the word usually translated soul in the sentence, and God blew into the Adam's mouth the breath of life, and it became a living soul. This word does not refer to some phenomenon that is separate from the body, as in ancient Greek thought. Rather, the word soul is the Hebrew word nephesh, which literally means a bundle of appetites, a big bunch of urges and desires. In a sense, it conveys our life force. It resides in the blood, and everything that has blood has a nephesh, and it's what constitutes life and ensures survival.
It's translated, he will be who he will be, or he will become who he will become. So that's the proper name for God, but it's paired with the generic label, which we usually just translate God. But the odd thing about this word God in Hebrew is that it's a plural noun. It literally means gods, but it carries a singular verb. So it's kind of awkward in itself, and to have the proper name and the generic label together is an unusual occurrence in the Hebrew Bible. So this is going to be reflected in the Midrash, this weird, awkward naming of God. The second footnote is the wordplay on Adam. We've known Adam as a proper name, but it literally, most of the time in this story, it occurs with a definite article, the Adam. It's the human. And the word Adam is connected to the word for ground, Adamah. So the Adam comes from the Adamah. And you can see from the painting, to some extent, how the artist has picked up on that with the coloring of the bodies of Adam and Eve. You can't quite see the ground, but you can see how the trunk of the tree comes down. And so that the coloring of the first human matches the coloring of the ground and the tree trunk. Third, the word we translate rib. Eve is built from Adam's rib. This is the only place in the Hebrew Bible that English translators want to translate that rib. It literally means side. And the ancient interpreters recognized this. The ancient rabbis often speculated that the first human being was androgynous, male on one side, female on the other, and what God did was just kind of cut them right down the middle. And this too you see from from the painting how Adam and Eve are joined together side by side. So they're like Siamese twins or something. They're connected. And then finally, the word that gets translated soul. You know, when God takes the first human being, breathes into its mouth the breath of life, and it becomes a living soul, usually is how it's translated. But this word is not like the Greek version of soul as something separate from the body. This word nephesh in Hebrew literally means something like a bundle of desires, like a wad of urges. We might translate it as life force, because your nephesh is in your blood, and everything that has blood has a nephesh, and it's always wanting us to get more, want more. Anyway, all right, those are, and that too, I think, shows up in this painting with the lovely little lights in the forehead of the man and woman. That's their nephesh. All right, and here's the retelling. It goes like this. In the beginning, when the land and the skies were still in the making, there were no green plants, or pasture land, or farmland, or any such thing as rain. There was only a mist to moisten the soil, and there was no one to work the ground. This is when the one named I will become the many in one, better known to us as Yahweh Elohim, or later Lord God, takes a bit of dry dirt and fashions a creature who would work the soil, a human from the humus, an Adam made from the Adamah, a tenuous being made of dust, lifeless until the one who will become the many in one blows into its mouth a breath of life, igniting all the hungers, curiosities, and desires that pulse through living veins. The child of the ground waits, wonders, watches, as the one who will become the many in one carves out a living space in the land of Eden, an orchard estate with all kinds of trees, some to inspire minds with their beauty, some to sustain bodies with their fruit, some to give shelter beneath their branches, all plotted neatly around two ancient trees of unknown origin: the tree of life, which provides the rootstock of all other trees and plants, and the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, health and harm, contentment and trouble, which forms the web of all existence. The planner and planter of Eden's orchard brings the creature of the ground onto the garden estate to work it and to safeguard it. No explanations are given, save one. You may eat from any tree in the orchard, except from the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. On the day you eat from that one, you will discover death. Of the tree of life, nothing is said. The ground worker, attention now centered on the tree of knowledge, wonders, what is death? But the one who will become the many in one is already busy making additional plans. There is much to be done on this estate. It is not good for the ground worker to be and work alone. I must make a proper partner to help with the labor. And so, the one who will become the many in one begins to experiment, forming from the ground every animal that we know today, domestic animals, wild animals, birds of the sky, all kinds of beings that flit, slither, creep, and crawl. This fashioner of all flesh would bring each one to the first child of the ground, eager to see its reaction. The Adam would study each creature to know its nature and to give it a name. The same names we all know and use now. For the livestock we keep close, the wild animals we keep at bay, the birds we envy soaring across the sky. Each creature is a delightful novelty and companion of sorts, and in some cases even a helper, but none of them a proper partner. Undaunted, the one who will become the many in one tries again, lulling the Adam into a deep sleep and turning the one into many, separating the two sides of the sleeping body, closing up the flesh. One side is built into a female, the remainder becomes a male. As the two meet each other, unclothed and unencumbered, free from shame, impervious to danger and scrutiny, they recognize themselves and they break into song. Now this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Woman and man, our names will reflect our connection. And by the way, this is why when we grow up and leave our childhood homes, we embrace lives with partners and live in communities. We are all, as it were, one flesh. But back to the story. Now, of all the wild animals crafted to be helpers, the snake, as we all know, is the cleverest, able to shed its skin, become shiny and new, taste, smell, and speak with a forked tongue, glide effortlessly on, under, and above the ground. One day, when the man and woman are in the middle of the orchard, seeking shade from the ancient trees, the snake slithers from its customary station, watching over the tree of life, into the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. He strikes up a conversation with the woman. Did the many in one indeed say, "You should not eat from any tree of this orchard"? Don't be absurd, the woman says to the snake. Of course we may eat fruit from these trees. How else would we live? It's only the fruit of the tree in the middle of the orchard that is forbidden. The many in one has said, "You should not eat from it, nor should you touch it, lest you die." Though, admits the woman, I do not know what that means. Surely you will not die, says the snake. Rather, the many in one knows that if the two of you were to eat from it, your eyes would be opened to much more than life on this estate. You also would be many in one, knowing both the good and the harmful aspects of life and everything in between. The woman studies the tree. Why should it be forbidden? She wonders. Its fruit looks tasty and nutritious, a delight to behold, a source of wisdom and knowledge. It calls to her. She considers the snake, created to be their helper, and wonders if he himself has eaten this fruit. She looks questioningly at the man beside her. He says nothing. Then, inhaling deeply the breath of life, hunger, curiosity, desire pulsing through her veins, she picks a fruit, shares it with her partner, and they both eat. Suddenly, their eyes are opened to a world that is no longer safe and secure. Exposed now and vulnerable, they sew together fig leaves to cover themselves and immediately begin to itch and chafe. Fig leaves, it seems, are not the best choice for intimate apparel. Just then, as luck would have it, they hear footsteps and hurry to hide themselves among the trees. It is the one who will become the many in one, strolling about in the late afternoon, surveying the estate. Looking around and seeing no one working, the one who will become the many in one calls out to the couple, "Where are you?" Leaves rustle. The man answers, "Hiding? And why are you hiding?" I heard your footsteps. I'm afraid to come out because I have no clothes." "Who told you that you were unclothed? Have you eaten from the tree about which I warned you?" The man stammers, The woman you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate." The one who will become the many in one frowns, then turns to the woman. "What is this you have done?" The woman shrugs and says, "The snake persuaded me, and I ate." At this point, the one who will become the many in one could have asked the snake, "What is this you have done?" And the snake could have replied in return, "What is this you have done?" Why incorporate such a tree into this estate if you never intended for them to eat of it? Why plant an orchard around it in such a way that it is ever before them, summoning their attention? Why instill in all living creatures spirits of desire to take care of themselves and to become more than what we are? But perhaps sensing this line of interrogation would come full circle, the one who will become the many in one instead lashes out at the snake, choking its voice with dust. "You may be the cleverest of all animals, the first taster of the tree of knowing, but because you have interfered in the workings of this estate, you are now considered a scourge, singled out from all the livestock and wild animals, destined to know more adversity than most. On your belly you will crawl, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. Because of your strangeness, you will evoke revulsion. Your offspring in every generation will live in mutual fear and distrust, and you will spend your days striking at the heels of the feet that threaten to stomp your head." The one who will become the many in one then turns to the woman. "This is your life from this point on, demanding labor, and multiple and dangerous pregnancies. In addition to unrelenting toil, you shall also bear children, some of whom will live, some of whom will die, some of whom will take your life in struggling to be born. You will long for true and equitable companionship with your mate, but as you have seen, men will, when left to their own devices, put their welfare and desires above yours and subordinate your interest to theirs. Then the one who will become the many in one confronts the man. Because you have taken no responsibility for your action, but instead simply accepted without question the words of the snake and the fruit from the prescribed tree, you will now learn what it means to be responsible for those around you in a world beyond your control. From now on, you will have to break your own ground. Only through your torturous labor will it yield anything to eat. You will plant seeds for food, but will reap mostly weeds and nettles. You will be forced to forage wild plants in order to survive. Only by the sweat of your face will you eat bread or partake of food as good as the provisions on this estate. This will be your lot until you return to the ground. Dust you are, to dust you shall return. The snake, the woman, the man, eyes fixed upon the ground, their womb and their tomb, say nothing in response. The one who will become the many in one looks with sad amusement at the prickly fig leaves scratching soft flesh, and clothes the two with tunics of animal skin. Thus death comes to the Garden of Eden at the hand of the very one who had given life. And animals, created to be helpers, become unwitting, disposable casualties in a painful equation. On the day that you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, you will discover that with life comes death. The one who will become the many in one then grows anxious and says, "Look, the ground workers have become like us, many in one, knowing good and bad and everything in between. What if they eat from the tree of life also and live long, easy lives despite my pronouncement?" Whereupon the one who will become the many in one evicts the couple from the estate in Eden to find, carve out, and cultivate their own ground, the ground from which they had been taken. As they pass through the gate, the woman casts a side glance at her partner and feels for the first time a strange mixture of love and foreboding. She then turns for one last look at the tree of knowledge. She sees again its beauty. She feels the weight and the lure of wisdom. She thinks to herself, I will eat this fruit again. And if only for a short time on this earth, I will be more than dust. A fearful guard is posted at the orchard gate to ensure there is no return. But one day, not long after, perhaps bored, lonely, frustrated that there are no longer workers to work the estate, the one who will become the many-in-one slips past the appointed sentinel and follows the couple and all their animal companions out into the world of good and bad, happiness and hardship, suffering and survival, to discover what is possible and to see what happens next. Eden, it seems, had never been home for any of them. And as for the woman, she finally gets a name, Chava, Eve, life revealer, because it is she who gives birth to the whole of living.
I am Eve, I am the reason you have no shelter here. I took away your comfort and I gifted you with fear. Sent you out into the cold, and though I was different then, these weren't growing pains, I would do it all again. I like this world we live in, though it's rough and it is flawed. It reminds me of my skin, sensitive and raw. And we gave up simple pleasures, and I deprived us of our wings. But without a shield of armor, we can feel so many things. What to dream of at night. If you hadn't seen the darkness, you wouldn't crave the light. You can call me what you want, and your words will hurt, it's true. I accept them anyway, my deals are coming due. I am willing to be painted in the colors of your choice, for I am Eve. I am the reason you even have a voice.
Danna, thank you so much for the gift of the retelling of the story. It's given us so much to consider and reflect on and to share in discussion, I am sure. We had a nice post in the on Zoom that loved the apple on your laptop as it went right along with the story. So that was an extra joy. We'll now pause our recording for joys and concerns. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions.
I believe in the sun. I
We extinguish the chalice. But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us today. Our closing covenant. Now we'll join in spirit as we recite our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and community is its goal. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be. Those on Zoom are welcome to continue the conversation. Those in the sanctuary are invited to coffee hour in Celebration Hall. The service has ended.